When buying a home, there are some homes you just shouldn't buy. And I'm going to tell you how to know whether or not those homes are for you or not. We're going to go over inspection, disclosures. We're going to talk about issues with new homes and new builders and how to know if a builder is good or not. Picky HOA and whether or not you should join the HOA in that community or pick another house. We're also going to talk about old home problems like electrical, plumbing, and asbestos. That's a big one. We're also going to talk about flood zones and how you should know what's under your soil in your house that's coming up. And we're going to begin with inspections. The number one thing to do when buying a used home is to look at the seller's disclosure. The people that are selling a house, they have to fill out a paper that says, hey, we've checked this, we've done this, this is the things we changed while we were here, this is what was happened. They're required to do this. And if you can't get that from them, be very careful, be very wary. This is why you want to do everything with a real estate agent, because we know this stuff already. So that's if you buy a used house. But what if you buy a new house? All new houses are good, right? Not necessarily. I want to show you some brand new houses that are just down the road that are not necessarily good. These houses have vinyl siding that are coming off, all of them, right down the road from us, and it's something you got to think about, because all these homes, when they were established, when they were put in, they look great, but something started happening afterwards. See, you can't have every single brand new home in a subdivision having the exact same problems. They've had issues with these, and they gotta all be fixed now. So just because it's brand new doesn't necessarily mean it's going to not have any maintenance for the time it's been there. We really got to think and watch and take note of the little tiny things that are happening in the house and say, is this necessarily a good thing to do to buy a brand new home? It's number one, it's going to cost you more than a used home. You're not going to get as much space as a used home. Number two, you're going to have issues with the house. Brand new home sellers definitely have a reputation. And if you ask a real estate agent, they will know which builders have a reputation for excellence and which have a reputation for building with a budget cheaply. Me personally, I'm never going to live in an HOA ever again. HOAs are great for reselling their houses and making sure that your neighbors don't have a car lot of broken cars beside them. But the HOAs can be very, very picky, very, very picky. I used to live in an HOA with my wife, and it was they came with a rule book that was a dictionary size. We never read the whole thing. Of course we didn't. It's just too much. And I imagine most people didn't. In fact, they told you what kind of curtains you could have inside your house. They made sure that you didn't keep your sandals on the porch. They told you when you could park outside and when you couldn't park outside, when you have to have your car in the garage. You got to tell your HOA everything that you do outside that affects your neighbors because you live so close to each other. You got to make sure your HOA is well managed, and it's not coming from Karen next door that is the president of the HOA and she just hates you. You can experience all kinds of stuff with that. Even some HOAs that don't even live in the subdivision, but they send people over to do maintenance and all kinds of stuff, and they don't save money for things that are important. There are pros and cons to some of these things, and some things that I wouldn't do is live in an HOA again. Old houses like beyond 100 years. Now I know that you can renovate these houses, you can find the problems in them, and you can fix them up, and you can do all kinds of stuff, but there's lots of stuff you have to think about when buying an old home. Old homes, they primarily have two main issues. Number one, plumbing. Plumbing is a big issue because a lot of these old homes, they have lead pipes, they have cast iron pipes, and they have these pipes that they form a lot of problems in the house, not only in the septic system going down that you have to clean out a lot, but also they have problems getting clean water out of them. You don't want lead pipes feeding your children. Electrical. A lot of old homes have knob and tube electrical or aluminum electrical, and you just... I hope there's nobody using knob and tube still. It comes with all its own problems. Knob and tube electrical is where you have these wires that run into the house, and they just basically run around these insulation tubes all the way down throughout the rafters of the house. Very dangerous. I don't know why they started doing it this way, but they didn't know a lot about electricity back then. What we have now is electrical that's very insulated. The insulation runs all the way down the line, and it's rated for years and years, up to 100 years sometimes. But some of these older homes, they have the type of electrical that doesn't last that long. And so it becomes a fire hazard. You need to have that stuff inspected, and it's very costly to get rid of that stuff. Just because it's old doesn't mean it's better. Another thing you should look for beyond those two main things is asbestos.
She's using Ken Tile vinyl asbestos tile.
Untouched by time's dark captains, rust, rot, and decay, asbestos possesses rare qualities, for which it stands alone.
There was asbestos pipes, and asbestos was used as an insulator. It was insulating around hot water pipes, it insulated around water heater pipes that go to the roof, it insulated all kinds of stuff in the house, but it was also put into the tile of the houses. It was put into the walls. Everywhere you could imagine that this stuff was just used because it was a miracle stuff. It'd hold things together. It would insulate. People thought it was amazing stuff until they realized it was causing health issues. And to have asbestos mitigated or gotten rid of by a professional is expensive, especially if you live in California or another state. Fortunately, I live in Tennessee. It still is a health hazard, so it's very difficult to get rid of, and it needs to be done safely by professionals. Another thing that you could run into if you have an old house is safety issues. Sometimes you have laundry chutes, which I love, by the way. I think that's still a very cool and novel thing to do, to get your laundry fast to the area. You could have your child fall down the laundry chute, and that's not what you want to happen. You could have steep stairways, or stairways don't have the right width between each of its railings, or railings that are climbable. I mean, these are major issues that you don't want your children around. You might have dumb waiters inside these old houses, that, you know, those tiny little elevators that are made for just moving small items here and there. You don't want your children jumping into a dumb waiter and moving around, or worse, getting stuck, or worse, falling. So make sure you're very thoughtful about this. I mean, not only are old houses drafty, but you have things like low ceilings. You have things like non-working fireplaces. Maybe there's problems with the chimney. Things that you don't know about that you need to get inspected. Make sure you check all these things and have a professional inspector check them. If you are even thinking about getting a house that's very old, don't get one in a flood zone. Yeah, I know that seems pretty obvious, right? But if you're viewing a home that's in a 100-year or 500-year flood zone area, you might think, oh, that's okay. You know, it's not going to flood, but every 100 years or every 500 years. That's great, but that's not the reason. The main reason you want to get rid of these. The main reason you don't want to look at these houses. The main reason is because when you are buying this house, not only do you have to pay the mortgage on it, but now you got to pay flood insurance. Flood insurance is a major thing. It can be $1,700 per year to $5,000 per year. The average for the U.S. is around $800 a year. With biblical size hail and storms that are happening right now, I think it's important to stay away from places that could erupt in a big flood, because that could cause some major issues in the future. You don't want that to happen. Homes with underground oil tanks. I'm going to put also underground, any features that are underground, you need to be very careful about. You can't see those things. You don't know what condition they're in, and it's very difficult to take care of them. These decommissioned tanks, you got to fill with sand. You got to make sure the soil around them is still good. If they've leaked out into the soil and you've done soil tests after you've bought the house, maybe it's leaked and it's gone all the way down to a reservoir, or some kind of water that goes into your neighbor's well area, or heaven forbid, you're closer to a city and you have this huge area that is a brand new subdivision, and they just said that there's an oil tank that has leaked nearby. Now you got a major problem on your hands. So I've even heard of some problems ending up costing $250,000 just to remediate the soil and fix the oil tank. What I would suggest you do if you are in that situation, get it fixed, get it removed, or have the seller remove it before you buy the house, or at least have it extremely tested, because this is a major problem that can really affect your finances. Houses that are flipped by LLCs, flipped by any, basically, but particularly LLCs. What I mean by that is a limited liability company. Limited liability companies, people form these companies in order to, in case something happens to the house, they aren't liable for anything but that asset. And that's good if you are under a LLC, but it's also bad for the person that is having the problems. That means they can only go so far. They're limited on the resources they can pull from that. And so that is a red flag to me, because I'm like, okay, you've had the house 3 months and you flipped it from $100,000 or $200,000, and now you're selling it for $500,000, and you've repainted it. Flippers, I mean, let's be honest. I've been a flipper. I was a flipper back before I became a real estate agent, and flippers are cheap. We find things that are a problem. You fix and polish it up, you clean it up, you make it look good again, you add the features that are appealing to the people, and you resell it. That the goal, unfortunately, is to make money. It's not necessarily to make the house good. Fortunately, when we were flipping houses, we always redid everything in the house. We tore everything out, from bathrooms to kitchens to everything was torn out. Everything torn out, repainted, checked everything, the structure, but oftentimes people don't do that. So when you're in a house and you're looking at these things, and perhaps you've fallen upon a flipped house, you can check that, by the way, by going to Zillow or going to Redfin and looking at the history of when it was bought and sold. If it's only been bought like a year ago and then now they're selling it again, chances are it's sold by a flipper, and you need to check things. Flippers are often not contractors, so you need to check and make sure that when you're looking at things, if you see something aesthetically that doesn't look right, what else inside the house is also not right? Because if it's not right on the outside, chances are they skimped on the inside as well. If you haven't seen some of my videos talking about this stuff, I talk more about this in looking at some of the problems that flippers have done in the past. It's very interesting. So look at moldings, look at the paint job, look at how close the LVP gaps are in the floor. See if they've got the transition pieces correctly on the floor. Look at how well the floorboards are done. Are there any strange anomalies that would make your OCD go wild? Like is the faucet in the right place? Is there a mirror on the wall that's not kind of crooked? Check this stuff out, because if you don't, then it could lead to some major problems in the future. And number 5, custom features in the house. Now, if you're buying a house and you really think it's really neat, they made this huge custom feature in this house, that's good, but be very careful, because if you see that this house has a giant fish tank, or it has a specialty safe room, or it has a man cave with lots and lots of equipment in it that comes with the house, that's really neat. It's a selling point, but it's also a problem, because you might get bored of that someday, and now you got to change it. So let's say if you take that fish tank out. If you take that fish tank out, it's going to cost a lot of money to remove it safely, and now you have to also put back something there that is going to be fitting for that area. That's a lot of money. You got to plan for that. If you don't like it, you got to have money in order to fix the wall, fix the studs, fix everything else back up so it looks like a normal house again. Or the man cave. Fixing that man cave, you got to take down all that wood or whatever it is that's in that man cave to make it look like a normal drywalled house again. And that might cost a lot of money to redesign. Or maybe you're in a custom style kitchen. That's a big deal, because if you're in this custom kitchen, you've done a lot of work, hundreds of thousands of dollars in a custom kitchen. Maybe you even have a commercial style refrigerator or things like that, and that's very appealing. But all of this costs money if you need to change it someday, and so to make it look like you want it to. So make sure that when you are thinking about buying a house, you're thinking about the resale value of these things as well as the sale value to yourself. And no matter if your move is early or late, we're always here to make it great. So if you're looking for a real estate agent in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area, make sure you reach out to me at the number above, and we will see you very soon.